This brings me to my next point, and Amanda, would love to get your thoughts on this commercial, which I love, because if we are playing into the 90s and the 2000s, I used to love me some, Go-Gurts and yogurts and all that stuff. So we have the Yo Magic commercial. So I have my thoughts on it, how I interpreted the commercial when I first saw it. Then I revisited it today, and I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. But I want to get you guys' thoughts on it first. What was your thoughts on this pretty dark and sinister claymation that we get in this week's commercial? What were your thoughts there, Amanda?
I was kind of surprised that it was such a different kind of commercial. So that was like your initial thought. You're like, whoa, this isn't what we're used to seeing, right? So I think it was the scene beforehand where Wanda told Pietro how she was feeling, where like after everything that happened, she felt isolated, she felt alone, she felt like she was slipping into like this darker headspace, and she didn't know what to do. And then like the commercial hit, and there's this kid, I'm assuming it's like a younger version of her, like she's on this isolated island, just there by herself alone. And I just found it interesting that she said that to Pietro at like a very vulnerable moment. And then like the shark can represent, so many different people, but like I just felt like the shark was like the big bad in a way that she's kind of thinking, and she was alone, and the shark could have like made her feel better in certain, like they gave her the, what was it called? The snack, the
Yo Magic.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he gave her that, and like, obviously we see what happens. Yeah. But yeah, I think it ties into that. There's someone that did help her out, did give her something in a way, but things are going wrong in the commercial. So something bad did happen. So I kind of paralleled the conversation that she had with Pietro and how she was feeling. And that was representation of what happened in the commercial.
I like where you're going there, man. A quick correction though, as far as the scenes, you were spot on. It was the reverse. So the scene before that was actually Vision looking at the girl hanging the tree or hanging the ghost or whatever. And then the next scene was actually that scene that you were just talking about, which is still key. You're still kind of point on what you were just getting at in regards to feeding off of magic, not the shark being the villain. And we'll get, I love where you're at there, man. Tossing it to you, Chris, regarding your thoughts on that commercial, and also note in reference that the scene before that was showing how people were maybe sick, maybe in pain, maybe haven't eaten in a while, which plays into the commercial. But what's your thoughts on the Yo Magic?
Yeah. I just want to say I hate yogurt and Go-Gurt, all that stuff. So it don't even matter why my opinion on that. I just want to say that it's a free country. But I think maybe I wanted like a Hot Wheels commercial, or like, remember that popsicle one is like the colors, dude. The colors. It's like this show is literally in black and white and in color. Why didn't they use that?
There you go.
Zach,
or fruit roll-ups. Why couldn't we get some fruit roll-ups in the mix?
Yeah, exactly. Now, with episode 6, when the commercial comes on, you got to pay attention. You got to be focused, try to figure this out. I could not figure this out for the life of me. Like, out of all the commercials, I was like, maybe this is, maybe this is. I got to this one, and I was like, I don't know what they're trying to do here. To me, it was kind of like, like you're dying, you're not feeling well. Someone gives you what you need to not die, but you can't get to it. So the first thing I thought, is it's like Vision. Like, I got Vision back. But it's not Vision. I can't really get to it. Like, I just can't get to it. I can't open this. I can't figure this out. So that was my only theory on it. So I'm interested to hear what the rest of you guys thought about it. But I was like, this is out of control.
Tossing it to you, Zach, in regards to every commercial thus far has been Wanda-centric. We get the toaster, which is Iron Man reference. We get the Strucker watch, which is talking to Hydra, the Hydra soap. We get last week Lagos with Civil War. She was responsible for the death of those people accidentally, but it's blood on her hands. Your thoughts on this yogurt commercial, man, or Yo Magic? What'd you think about it, Zach?
Well, first of all, shout out yogurt. I had it this morning. Can be delicious.
There you go. And by the way, this stream is sponsored by yogurt, but go ahead.
Listen,
sponsored by Yo Magic.
I'm out.
No, I was like Chris, a little bit stumped by this one too, as to what the ulterior meanings are supposed to be. I like Chris's interpretation of all these people who are kind of put in this picturesque life, but don't necessarily have access to it. This is also the episode where we got Evan Peters' character talking about how she's actually maybe doing a good thing. She's giving people better jobs and giving them this kind of like ideal life. Although we know that there's more to it than that, and maybe there is something like that going on. I don't know. It honestly, the one thing it made me think about was the Atlanta breakfast cereal commercial, which is much darker, but similar in some ways.
Yeah, great point there, Kristen. Your thoughts on this commercial? Again, knowing that the previous commercials have been so tied to Wanda, and I think there's definitely some connections to Wanda in this commercial, but maybe not as much as the other ones in regards to her trauma. But how did you interpret that shark and the kid dying?
Yeah, I mean, like you guys said, it was such a different commercial than we've seen. Like, I was like, where's the guy and the girl? Like,
yeah.
It's different. What does that mean? But yeah, this was definitely one that I think was a little bit trickier. I think that there could be a couple of things, like maybe it represents that like someone gave her something to amp up her powers, and she thought that doing that would give her what she needed, the family vision, having everyone back, but now it's sucking her dry, and like maybe this is like slowly killing her to do all of this. I was also thinking just about like the fact that like she's have basically all these people are trapped, so maybe they're the people that are trying to survive, and so maybe there was a connection there of like what she's doing to these people. Those are kind of like the two places that I was going. But I felt like this one was definitely a little bit trickier than the other ones that were like pretty obvious, like Stark,
the Strucker watch and all this, the Lagos
and this one was definitely, I think, a little bit more like out of the box. But I think that was cool that they did the claymation. I think that was such an awesome design.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, what are they going to do? Are they going to like go back to the guy and the girl, or are they going to continue doing some like weird, trippy commercials and things that maybe feel a little bit more like you have to really think outside the box? Like, what does this connect to?
It's a great point. And like you just said, it's very interesting that we haven't seen. A lot of people are theorizing that that's her parents that was in the commercials every week, which would be interesting. But just reading some of these. Go ahead.
Bringing that up, I wonder if also like it could go back to like her parents like being alone, and then Hydra giving her powers. Here's this magic, but not using it to the full potential or something like that.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. And tossed into you, Sean, as I kind of highlight some of these comments here. The one being, magic. If you don't eat the magic, you'll die. But what was your interpretation of that Yo Magic commercial, Sean?
So since it's so clearly abandoned the template and formula of the previous ones, I just kind of went, okay, it seems like the best way to look at it is from an outside the box perspective, because it does not fit the pattern at all. And there are distinct, obvious things with the people, the actors, as well as here is an obvious thing named after a trauma from her past. Yeah. And so then you get to this one, and so my take was that the first set were about the trauma she's experienced, and this is the trauma she's causing. Yeah, because it's Yo Magic. So magic is the thing causing trauma to people. There's these people that are stuck; they can't move. Like it cut from like person standing there crying. I don't know
exactly
crying, trying to move, but they can't. And they know that there's help out there. They have some awareness of it. Cut to an ad of a person like starving at their core. Their soul is dying. Yeah. Someone hands them something that's supposed to solve them, and they can't do anything, and they still sit there and die. So that was the interpretation. That the shift was now it's the commercials relate to the trauma that she's causing, perhaps, and even say that Lagos is the transition. That's a trauma she caused, but it's a trauma that she experienced. She wasn't trying to hurt people. Exactly. But it was something that did hurt people, but it hurt her too. So maybe that could be the bridge between them. So that was my take.
I love that. And also, too, it is important to note that whenever we do see these commercials, like we talked about with the man that brought up earlier, what's the scene before and what's the scene after in regards to the context of those commercials. And you just hit it on the nail, Sean. That's what I had in my notes after revisiting it today. Just coming to scene before was a lady who was crying, who seems to be in pain. We cut to a commercial about someone eating food. We don't know if these people have been fed during this 9-day stretch that Wanda has had them under their hex, which also speaks to last week. Wanda was asked by Vision, where are all the children? And we see the very next week, we have a town full of kids. And what does Wanda do for the holiday? She makes it Halloween, which gives them a bunch of candy to feed on, which isn't necessarily good for you to eat, you know, after you haven't eaten in a couple days. So that's how I kind of interpreted that scene after revisiting. It's like, it's a coincidence that it's Halloween and they're feeding them candy. We have a commercial about yogurt and the kid can't open the candy because he's been weak. He's been, you know, whatever Wanda's been doing with these kids, they're now awoken and she's feeding them candy, thinking that's nurturing them and keeping them alive. My first initial thought was that shark is a manifestation of whoever the big bad is, and they're feeding off of the magic of not only Wanda, but we know that Billy and Tommy are growing up at an accelerated pace. Wherever, if it is Mephisto, if it is Nightmare, and they feed off of souls and they feed off of fear, they want to take those kids' power to become the big bad in Doctor Strange too. So there are, again, that's the sick thing about this show is we can make all these theories and predictions and all this stuff, but sometimes the context is like right in front of us. But again, we just run wild with all of the different things that we think there. But the commercials are so cool to me. I think they're so well written and they're placed perfectly, and they speak to what's going on in that moment. But I'm loving these commercials. But going back into